This is Robert Martellacci, the MindShare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology magazine, and welcome to This Week in Canadian EdTech, MindShareTV, in conversation with John Baker, the CEO and board chair of D2L. Happy New Year, John. Thank you for joining me today.
Happy New Year, Robert. Looking forward to joining you.
A little bit about John Baker. He founded D2L in 1999. I think that's when we met around that time at an online conference in Alberta. He was 22 years old while attending the University of Waterloo. D2L is a global software company that believes learning is the foundation upon which all progress and achievement rests. A strong believer in community involvement, John devotes both his personal and business efforts to supporting young entrepreneurs who are developing and applying technology to improve society worldwide. He was appointed the Governor Council and Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, member of the Entrepreneurs Business Council of Canada, Business Higher Education Roundtable, past board chair of Communitech, and is board member of Canada's National Ballet. John was awarded the Emeritus Service Cross and the EY Entrepreneur of the Year, Ontario's for Software and Technology, Young Alumni Achievement Medal for the University of Waterloo, and Intrepid Entrepreneur of the Year in Waterloo Region Hall of Fame. John graduated from the University of Waterloo with honors BA in Science and Systems Design Engineering with first-class honors and an option in Management Sciences. Wow, a lot to unpack there. It's been quite a journey, and you just seem to never stop, John. Congratulations on your success and going public this past year.
Thanks, Robert. And you got the short bio.
That was the short bio. Thank you for that. And wow, what a time it's been. Online learning really came of age during COVID. Who would have imagined 100% of educators using some form of tech-infused pedagogy in our lifetime? And in a crisis, necessity is the mother of invention.
It was a major pivot for a lot of our clients. I remember our team in the early days of the pandemic were training about 5,000 educators a day on how to leverage the technology in a better way to support their students in this new format. I don't think we're done. I think we learned a lot about how to do remote and some online learning. I think, if anything, we've also learned that there's a long way to go in terms of really driving better engagement with students and helping to provide really high quality online experiences. So I think I can speak for a lot of our clients when we were up for the next wave of challenges as we look forward ahead in building out better online experiences for our students to complement that face-to-face experience they're getting back to as well too.
Absolutely, and congratulations on the release of the D2L Brightspace Creator Plus. What inspired that product innovation?
Well, it's hard to build high quality, high engagement online learning experiences. So many folks resorted to sort of more of an emergency response, just doing what they could with what they had, or having to, do just simply Zooms to engage with their kids. But to create practices, interactives, really drive that high engagement in an online format, it was very clear that we needed to build some new tooling. And in our case, moving it out of just simply the hands of the instructional designers and the web designers and the animators and the videographers. How do we bring all of that technology and tooling and put it in the hands of creators, educators, teachers, instructors, folks in companies to be able to build really high quality, engaging experiences to help people be inspired by the learning experience and to really help them understand if they're on the right path or not. And so that's what inspired us is
right.
Take this work that we've been doing for over 20 years and helping build really high quality online experiences and put that power in the hands of more teachers.
It really speaks to the democratization of learning and technology, doesn't it? Since we first met, I'll never forget the time when we first met at the Alberta Online Conference. And it might have been one of your first conferences, and I think mine with the Learning Company back in the Kevin O'Leary era, dating myself.
Yeah, I know Kevin, and yes, that was a while ago. We've come a long way. It's interesting. The vision that we had back then to really get out there and transform the experience. Still very much the same vision that we have today. We're just, more resources now in place to really help us execute on bringing it to life. So yeah, we've come a long way, Robert.
Absolutely. So talk to me about what drives your innovation when it comes to product development.
It's really listening to clients, really talking. We do about 2,000 design sessions a year with faculty members, teachers, students in some cases, and really trying to understand how do we actually improve the workflows in their day-to-day lives to make it easier for them to engage and inspire students. That's what drives it. If we look at our roadmap, we get lots of ideas from clients through their own submissions. We have advisory boards, but at the heart, it's really doing that research in the classroom or online with faculty, with teachers, to really help us really understand what's going to make a big impact in their lives. And then we try to prioritize it and in theme. So going from just simply digitizing what they're doing today to really optimizing for better outcomes, whether that's better student learning, better retention, better engagement, better productivity, and then really aiming towards a transformation of the experience. So as we digitize, we can do things that we could never do in the traditional classroom. And so how do we build the technology that can inspire people to do even more than they're doing today? Because the technology finally makes things that we thought were impossible possible today.
Well said. And some of the best products I've seen on the market, it's really about paying attention to the customer needs and the customer, putting the customer at the center. So kudos to you for that focus. Now, talk to me about new models or trends you see emerging on online learning. Dr. Ron Austin, Dean Emeritus at York University, shared in one of our top 10 trends for 2023, 7 options of online. It's really grown exponentially. And it's complex, but your platform simplifies it for the teachers. And so where are we at with that?
Yeah, I think when you look at the trend line for online learning, typically most schools, most universities were traditionally face-to-face in the past. And we saw a slow march towards online learning. If you look at some of our leading clients before the pandemic, some of them had upwards of about 25% of their students taking courses that were online at the same time as attending class face-to-face. Now, I'm talking about universities here in this case.
Right.
We also saw at the same time before the pandemic, over 1 million students in Ontario alone, just speaking to the K-12 environment, using the platform to deliver what we call a blended experience, where they're using the technology to support what's happening in the classroom. I think those two trends have accelerated during the pandemic. I think there's definitely some folks that think we're going to snap back to just simply a face-to-face. I don't see that. That's not showing up in any of the surveys that I'm doing. We just did a recent survey of several hundred educators, and only 1% thought they were going to go back to just simply a face-to-face model. But I think what is certain is remote was a bit of a Band-Aid during the pandemic. And I think people really struggled with engagement. Screens would go black with students. I think it's a very useful tool to use synchronous, what we're doing right now, but not necessarily for the whole educational experience. I think sometimes we use these tools, as a hammer looking for a nail, trying to use it for everything. And I think we've got to be able to really leverage the technology to support the best mode of learning possible for the student when they need it. And so I think we're going to see a shift from remote to online learning. And what I mean by that is students to learn anytime, any place, anywhere. And if a student, for example, is sick one day, they can pick up online. And this concept of being able to do dual mode, where you could be in the class, but if you're not in the class that day, well, how do you carry on with your learning? How do you just seamlessly progress forward? We've seen advanced clients doing that even before the pandemic in spots like Australia and other markets around the world.
Right.
But that seems to be a new trend for a lot of our clients.
And I know a number of educational institutions have indicated that they were going to maintain that hybrid type of model. But, I experienced a blended program at Pepperdine when I did my master's in EdTech, teaching Old Dog New Tricks back in 2006. And, they infused project-based learning. There was some
Yeah.
synchronous, but when you infuse project-based learning, and there's various options for teachers, and it's backwards by design elements to it, and there's a lot to unpack, but we've come a long way, and you've elegantly talked about that. And the great snapback Dr. Steve Jordan's talked about that threat from U of T, psychologist who happens to have his own EdTech company. We've seen some of that in elementary schools, but how do we continue to push the innovation curve and the growth mindset? That's a bit of a challenge that we've seen in K-12.
Well, I think it's really hard to go back. I don't think it's hard to depart from remote, just for clarity.
Right.
That was a struggle for a lot of students, and it was not a universal tool that could provide equity for all. It was a Band-Aid during the pandemic. I think we'll still use elements of it, but I don't think it'll be the primary mode going forward. I think it'll be either face-to-face or online, or this concept of dual mode where you could have both online and face-to-face at the same time, with maybe a little bit of remote sprinkled in.
Right. Yeah.
But at the heart of that, it's around understanding what the students are really wanting, what the students really need, and helping to make sure that you're providing the right programming to support them. And why I say that is, if you look beyond just traditional K-12, and you look into universities, students are demanding online and not remote, a different type of online experience. And the clients that have been leaders in online are growing like crazy because of that demand, whereas others are really struggling with enrollment because students have abandoned the traditional remote model, if you will, for a lot of the programs that are being offered.
So on that note, we'll expect to see some real shifts in the way universities and colleges operate, and micro-credentialing and all kinds of badging. And so it's not going back. The snapback in higher ed, definitely, I don't see that happening.
No, and we need them to try new modes, micro-credentialing. So basically taking a big program or certificate and breaking it down into components. So, not only students can benefit from that, but folks in the workplace can as well. And so if you think about upskilling the workforce for digital transformation, for the green economy, for all these other big changes that are happening in our workplace, universities and colleges can play a big role in that, especially online, micro-credential based. Stack these together to get a bigger certificate that adds tremendous value as that employee goes from one step in their career to the next. We can have an outsized impact by connecting the dots between employers and universities and colleges.
And that speaks to the skills agenda and coming of age. And I know that's an area of interest to you and your co-founder at D2L, and on a national scale. The 7 C's, the C20 have really come of age. And when you don't have a clear picture of what the jobs of the future are, it's about preparing kids to be resilient and having those critical thinking skills, digital skills, etc. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, durable skills is the way that we refer to it at D2L. We think about not just the soft skills around creative thinking, problem solving, entrepreneurship, but how do we actually build these into the programs as well? So you talked about problem-based learning in one of the courses you took.
Right.
Well, that's a great way to start introducing these concepts into even elementary. Play-based learning is another way to think about it in the even earlier grades. And so if we can help equip students with those transferable, durable skills, it's going to have a real impact on their ability to thrive in the new economy. But then there's also very hard skills that people have to learn. There's new ways of doing project management through agile methodologies. There's new ways of doing artificial intelligence. There's new ways of doing leadership. How do we keep people sharp on those skills in an ongoing fashion? And so I'm a big believer that education doesn't end once you graduate from university. We need to continue that educational experience to provide
Absolutely
the latest.
And when you referenced AI, and ChatGPT has made the top of our list for top trends for 2023 in EdTech, and along with cybersecurity right behind it, and data privacy. AI is really come of age, and it's shaking things up in education. Thoughts on how you're engaging with it, and how education should.
Well, we've seen that coming for about 10 years. We've been working with AI for over 10 years now. We had one of our partners actually talking about how this would actually happen 10 years ago, which shocked me at the time, doesn't today. The ability for us to leverage these AIs to be able to now provide an even better educational experience, that's the key. What are the biggest problems that these things either create or unlock that we can then enable students and teachers to use to be able to provide a better educational experience? And I'll give you an example, one that we launched January of last year, which was
Right.
the ability for us to close caption videos in multiple different languages all automatically. That's
Amazing.
leveraging AI behind the scenes, or we've had an AI doing adaptive learning for a long time. So
Brilliant.
these tools become part of the ecosystem, if you will. And the key is trying to figure out how do we actually keep the human at the center of the equation,
Right.
versus feeling disempowered by these technologies. And
Absolutely.
change, yeah.
I'm thinking back to a famous quote from Dr. Marshall McLuhan from the University of Toronto. To paraphrase, we build the technology, and the technology shapes us, right?
That's
So
right.
it's a matter of keeping control of the humanistic element of it, as you alluded to. What does growth look like to you for 2023 at D2L?
So we continue to focus on making sure that our clients are very happy with what we're building. As we've already talked about, we've launched a new product called Creator Plus. We want to bring that out to market and put that in the hands of more educators. A large number of our K-12 base already has it. We need to get more of our higher ed clients and corporate clients embracing it to create really highly engaging offerings. I think I go back to some of the problems that we're focused on. How do we drive better retention? How do we help support better engagement? How do we spark that inspiration for students so that they persist through the programs they're going into? If I look at the conversations that I've had with now dozens of university presidents and provosts and hundreds of CEOs, engaging learners right now to help them achieve their educational outcomes or their next step in their career is the number one priority for these institutions. And we've got to do more as a company to help them really create the magic, if you will, in that class experience, or to support an even better online experience to enable them to achieve those outcomes. This is a big challenge on a lot of campuses all over the world.
Absolutely. Talk to me about what gives you hope for 2023.
Well, I'm hopeful. What gives me hope? Seeing my kids in the class learning. I've got three little girls. When they come back, and my oldest is in grade 1 now, and
How fun is that?
we're working on 20 times 30 and 40 times 50 this morning. So it was, seeing them inspired and engaged in learning, and seeing the creativity and seeing what they're doing with the new skills they pick up. It's impressive. My youngest, who's 3 and isn't quite yet in school, has already learned more French than I did.
Impressive.
From her sisters. So, this next generation is going to really impress us, Robert. We just got to make sure we give them the right tooling and equip them.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you give kids agency, the sky's the limit. So exciting times ahead. I want to be mindful of your time, John. I know you have a super busy day ahead of you. Grateful to have you on our show today. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. And thank you for doing all that you're doing to support EdTech across the country and around the world. Really appreciate it, Robert.
Thank you so much. That was John Baker, the CEO and chairman at D2L. My name is Robert Martelacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.